Hello, this is 24th time of my life story, Father, Son, and a Violin. Now we go to chapter 11, the first high climax of my story. We had a small climax before, but this is the real first climax of the story. Number one story, my maiden sex experience. Okay, we all had that before. I hope it reminds you of your experience. Any Chinese man or woman who has gone through the 1960s would have experienced the headache of enormous household chores. For example, cooking rice. There was no electric rice cooker or gas at that time. Therefore, we all had to make a coal fire. To make a coal fire, we had to go to the coal station to buy loose coal. To buy coal, we need to borrow a flatbed cart, a Chinese man-powered trailer. After we got the loose coal back home, we had to make briquettes. Later, it evolved into making honey-bun briquettes. It was called oumei, meaning lotus root coal. Just dealing with coal formed a chain of business. Also, since we had never even heard the word refrigerator, very often we needed to go to the food market. And as we had no washing machine, every item of clothes was dependent upon our hand brush. Talking about washing clothes, I still remember the feelings of acute pain from my rocket-like little fingers in the ice-cold water. They felt as though they were being pricked by millions of needles. In addition, mending clothes and other chores that were supposedly women's specialties, us brothers got to do ourselves. As the only woman in our family, our mother had to go out to win the bread. To win the rice for us. There is something that needs to be clarified here. Our family was not an exception. Almost all kids at my age had to do slave labor to help their family. Everybody, same. I'm here and rambling today not to blame my mother, nor the age. If there is something I could blame, anything at all, it would be that my mother made me in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm just trying to import that as a 14-year-old junior after school, housework and playing the violin, there was little time left for playing with other kids or childish pursuits. However, up to then, with effort, I somehow managed to keep the balance. Since I had gotten to know Jiang Nansan, things started to change radically, as from him I could endlessly borrow books, works from Western classical literatures, books like Notre Dame de Ballet, Red and Black, War and Peace, Anna Karenina, Spartacus, Romeo and Juliet, and so on. Among the piles of books, my most favorite, or as my father would say, the book that poisoned me the most, was John Christopher by Romain Rolland. Though it was a very thick book, especially to a 14-year-old boy, I read it again and again, and I was so much absorbed by the book that sometimes I would imagine myself as John Christopher. Quite a few times, I burned rice while in my ivory tower with those books. At times, I would keep reciting some of the most fascinating quotations when my mother slapped me in my face. In return for John's generosity in lending the books to me, I played the violin every evening outside of his hut near the railway. That's my mental food and emotional nourishment, he said. In addition to reading the books, there was another good thing worth consuming time: eavesdropping on music from the radio station, The Voice of America. As I had no shortwave radio set, I would go to a classmate named He Kejian's home to do that. He Kejian was from a comparatively well-off family and had gotten a Red Lantern shortwave radio as a birthday present. For the sake of listening to the radio, we were once quite close. since the Voice of America was regarded as an enemy station and to eavesdrop on it was a serious crime. We usually had to wait until very late at night and then hide in his room covered with a quilt while listening at minimum volume. One night, we caught an unknown station broadcasting a violin concerto. That caused me to miss my last bus, so I had to go home by number 11 bus, means with 2 legs. During my 3-kilometer journey home, the rain began to pour down. Recording the magnificent violin music from the radio, I was literally singing in the rain. When I finally reached home, I was completely soaked through, but was gratified that I could change my clothes and heat my pillow at once. However, no matter how hard I knocked, Mother refused to open the door. I went around the back door, hoping my brother Danshin would show his mercy, but heard Mother shouting at him, "Dare you to open it? You go out together with him!" Left with no choice, I trembled to the railway hut. More strangely, on that night, my buddy Jiang Nansha too ignored my knocking on his door. I was so sure he was inside, as I knew he had to switch the railway several times during the night. His rejection gave me no alternative but to sit outside of his hut dozing. Not knowing how long had passed, Jiang's door opened. Jiang walked out with a raincoat. Not expecting to see me, he was surprised. "You are still here!" I yelled at him. "What kind of friend are you?" I stood up and headed straight into his hut. Jiang tried to stop me. "Don't!" But it was too late, as I had already separated myself from wet clothes. There was no electricity inside. A faint kerosene lamplight danced with the breeze. I heard the train hong, hong, hong. I was so cold that I could not wait for the train to pass. I buried myself in the quilt on his little wooden bed. "Ayah, my mom!" A sharp outcry, a woman's outcry, was heard, followed by a woman's nude buttocks out of the other side of the quilt. With enormous surprise, I quickly held the corner of the quilt tightly to cover my boy's thing. The opposing part, too, held the other corner of the quilt tightly to cover her girl's part. However, her other 2 upper parts were revealed, flickering with the rocking lamplight. Meanwhile, Jiang finished his rail switching and returned back to the hut. Seeing the scene, he could not help laughing out. Quickly, he controlled himself and introduced us to each other. To me, he said, "My sister, Chu Xiaoling. In fact, I wanted you to meet her a long time ago." And to her, "This is my friend Chen Danzhou. He's the one people call Nine Brother, a violin genius that you said you wanted to meet." To us, he said, "Now you two have met each other, totally, completely, and with no reservation." Soon after the introduction, he burst out laughing again. Probably feeling inappropriate, he controlled his laughter and added, "I don't know what to do. You two figured it out yourselves. What's the best for both of you?" He took off his raincoat and wrapped himself in his army overcoat and lay on his wooden armchair sleeping. We refused to budge for a little while. I told her that all my clothes were wet. "Mine too. Not dry yet," she replied. "I see." I puzzled. With no choice, I said, "Okay, I go. Please turn your face around." "Actually, I don't think I need much space," she said in a tone of commiseration. He rolled her body up with a small part of the quilt and turned her back to me. I was really cold and tired, and not yet at the age of needing to pretend to be a gentleman. So I also wrapped my body with a corner of a quilt and went to sleep, together with her feet. When I woke up next morning, I saw no Jianansa, but found myself naked in bed holding a nude girl in my arms. That was the first time I was ever in touch with the opposite sex, physically. I subconsciously released her with astonishment. However, the curiosity and vague longing for a woman made me a boy in his adolescence, embraced her again, carefully and softly. Her skin was very elastic, though not particularly smooth. Meanwhile, I felt a baby bamboo growing rapidly between my legs, that getting longer, thicker, and harder mysterious little bamboo shoot pushed against Chu Xiaolin's side. Yet at the same time, I felt extreme pain, as my little brother was not ripe yet, therefore the skin was still not peeled. Suddenly, my whole body was soused like a hailing open. Chu Xiaolin turned her body. Accidentally or not, she touched the extension between my legs. That seemed to be amused. When I realized that she was not really sleeping, I was scared off the bed, looking everywhere for my life-saving pants. I turned back home with my half-dry, half-wet clothes, but no one was home. That meant I still could not get into my room. Seeing me running circles to fight the cold, our back door opened. The next-door neighbor, who Mei said to me, "Hurry up and change your clothes. Otherwise, you will be just like me, to catch a cold, unable to go to the school." I entered the shared kitchen, but was still unable to get into my room. I had to ask her to stay in the kitchen while I stripped myself nude inside her quilt, and then asked her to take my clothes away to dry in the kitchen. Mei was of course very pleased to do that for me, in return for my favor once upon a time, remembering back when I helped her after she was abused by her parents and left almost naked in the kitchen. I let her in to warm herself in my bed. I waited in Hu Mei's bed, chewing the cut of the taste of holding Chu Xiaolin's naked body. It didn't help that Hu Mei's quilt gushed with the smell of a woman. All of this put me in a state of sexual impulse. I was somewhat befuddled, feeling as if Mei walked into me, uncovered my quilt, her quilt I mean, and held my life-making to be. My whole body suddenly cramped. Wow! I woke up with a throb of excitement and great pain at the same time, feeling moist in my leg junction. With my switching body, I immediately uncovered the quilt and found the moisture was not caused by urine, either blood. It was sticky jelly like a bean curd, like something that I had never seen before. I burst out crying. Mei heard me and quickly came in from the kitchen, asking me what was wrong. I hurriedly covered my boy's little thing, by that time a middle-sized thing, with the quilt, and answered, "There is no use to ask. My vitality of life is gone, and I will die soon." Hu Mei didn't get what nonsense I was talking about. After she pushed me repeatedly, I again explained. "My marrow, my bone piece has gone out, and I won't be able to live for very long." I showed the part of wet quilt to her. Mei saw it, also unable to figure out what that could be. My saliva, perhaps. She went to fetch a few pages of yellow toilet paper. At that time, Chinese toilet paper was called yellow straw paper, and wiped her quilt as hard as she could. Seeing I was shocked and ashamed, she covered my body part with the last yellow paper and urged me, "Wipe yourself quickly and get out of here. By noon my elder brother will come back, and if he sees you are here, he will be very angry with me." That was my maiden ejaculation, my first sexual experience. Here I have to give a few lines talking about this matter. At that time in China, everything to do with sex was absolutely taboo. No one talked about it. Therefore, regarding the knowledge of sex, there was no information available. The whole nation was sex blind. I remembered we had a female dog. When the dog grew old enough, it started to have its period. The blood could be seen from its back. We brothers were so upset and sure that one of our neighbors was responsible for the injury to our dog. No adults, not our mother, not the parents of that neighbor boy, told us anything about it. So the quarrel between us and our neighbor went on periodically. My first foreplay education was given to me by my Japanese girlfriend after I went to Australia at more than 30 years of age. Therefore, there will be more stories regarding how naive I was when it comes to sex in the later chapters. You guys are going to have fun. Now I bring our story back to what happened with me and then. After all of this, from time to time, I met Chu Xiaolin at Jiang Nansha's little hut. Perhaps I wanted to meet her. Occasionally, I caught them doing things together. No need to mention how stimulating yet painful, as my little banana was still green and the skin could not be peeled. Every time I became aroused, it would cause great pain. It was over here, there comfortable outside the door. One day, I overheard not their comfortable, but an argument. The voices were getting higher and louder, and the Chu Xiaolin rushed out of the hut. I stood there without knowing what to do. Jiang Nansha waved at me, and I walked into his little castle. Jiang sat there with sour cheeks. He covered his eyes with his hands and kept silent for a while. Just when I started to wonder whether I should go away, he suddenly stood, wildly grabbed me, and put me down on his bed. I was shocked by his unexpected action and lost my faculty of reaction. Before I tried to get away, he pressed me onto the bed with my face down, and frankly pulled down my pants. I struggled desperately like a fish out of water. Yet no matter how hard I flaunted, as a teenager I was not at all his opponent. I felt something hard penetrating inside my back hole. The incredible pain caused me to cry out miserably. I took a Shakespeare from his bed and pounded over my head. Jiang Nansha immediately let me loose, covered his right eye with his hands, and screamed madly. I seized the opportunity to lift my pants up, and enduring the back pain, I escaped as quickly as I could. Back home, I ran to the kitchen looking for Mei Mei. As we were the only two left in our homes, I dragged her to my bed with her face down and recklessly took her pants off. Mei Mei too was puzzled at first, but when he realized what I was trying to do, she tried to resist, though not as much as I did, but with an excuse. "The rice is going to be burned." I was too excited to care for the rice. However, when I fixed my eyes on her ass, I was more aghast than she was. I did exactly what Jiang did to me to Mei Mei, but only less than half in, we both screamed from pain. Mei Mei turned her body and facing me, took the chance to get away from my bed. Obviously, same as we tried to steal the green banana together when we were around 10. As a boy of 14, my little banana was not ready to be peeled and in her wrong place. It was for sure painful. But to me, that was the right place, as Jiang taught me by doing it to me. It took quite a few years before I came to know that human common knowledge. The right place to get in for a man. Okay. I hope you have fun. I hope you have had fun. And this is a true story. And it happens not to me, to many, many people in China. Okay. The next story will be the next story will be the story 2, the story of Jiang Nansha and Chu Xiaolin. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.